Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best Halsin build guide for in Baldur's Gate 3. So Halsin is a druid by heart, so we're going to keep him that way. This is going to be a lore friendly build, and let's just get into things. We're going to start off as the druid. Now you can start as a sorcerer to get constitution saving throw proficiency and just take one level of it to get Armor of Agathys. That's nice if you started this at level 12, but we're going to start off with the druid as that is the main focus of this build. We're going to take for cantrip Shillelagh, which is nice. It adds a wisdom modifier to our attack roll, so meaning we're going to hit more frequently early on in the game. And Thorn Whip's nice. You can pull a creature 3 meters closer. If they're near a ledge, you can pull them off, which is nice. So that's going to be our choice for cantrips. And for our ability scores, this is interesting because this build, we're going to go an interesting way with it. So we don't really need charisma here, so we're going to take our constitution up, and I'm going to put constitution to 17, and you're going to see why. And then wisdom obviously being a very important stat, we're going to have that at 16. Dexterity 14, it gives us a +2 to initiative. And for strength, we can use strength potions if you'd like. This allows us to get our strength a little bit higher. Although in wild shape, it takes the ability scores of the wild shape form, so doesn't make a big difference here. High dexterity gives us a higher initiative, which doesn't get affected by wild shape, so that's a reason for that focus there with our ability score. And we get to choose our spells at next level. So getting into things here at level 2, we're going to be choosing the Circle of the Moon. So this is the tanky build that works best for Halsin. The Circle of the Moon focuses on the wild shape ability, which is something that he seemingly cares about, so we want to keep it that way for the lore. I prefer Circle of Spores, but for this one, we're going to go with our spell choices. Create Water, extremely useful. We also get Call Lightning, so there's some synergy there. Now, we want Healing Word for our heal. This can bring up an ally from 18 meters away if they're downed. That's really the best use for it. It also gives us a bonus action. It's used as a bonus action. Ice Knife is good for damage early on too, because it can have some synergy with Create Water. Entangle is good for the crowd control, but I think Long Strider is nice, so increase a creature's movement speed by 3 meters. This is a ritual spell you can cast on your entire team, and they have that nice increase to the movement speed until long rest, so that's very nice. Speak with Animals can be a nice ritual spell as well, but if you have it from another means or by potions, that's probably best. Fog Cloud can be a decent concentration early on to blind and heavily obscure creatures within it, so we're going to go with that for our ability scores early on. Now, at level 3, we get to choose our level 2 spells, so we get a bit more selection here. There's some cool synergy. I have a video on how to get a permanent Flame Blade, which is quite nice, but we're going to take Hold Person, and we can take off Fog Cloud and put on Spike Growth. Spike Growth is a really great crowd control. It halves movement speed, causes piercing damage for every 1.5 meters it moves, so that's really nice. And we have an ability to set this up without using an action later on, which I'll get into. And then also Hold Person is a great concentration to have, as it's going to hold a person still, and then attacks within 3 meters are critical, so very effective. You can take Flaming Spear to have another summon alongside you, but I think that that's best for our spells at level 3. At level 4, we get ourselves a feat. Now, the level 4 feat is going to be very useful here. We get the Deep Rathe Wild Shape alongside the Dire Raven. The Dire Raven's really nice because you can blind enemies, so you can just fly around blinding everyone. For a cantrip, Guidance is nice if you don't have someone that already has it. Resistance or Guidance if you don't have it, but Produce Flame. Take anything with Poison Spray because Poison's weak in this game. Lots of creatures resist it. So then for our next spell, we can go with something like Flame Sphere if you want to. This does require concentration, but it will persist into your wild shape, so it can be a nice option. Gust of Wind can also knock a creature back, which is nice if you don't have an Eldritch Blaster on your team. Now, for our feat, there's a couple ways we can go about doing this. I think that going Tavern Brawler is probably our best bet. What this does, it adds our strength modifier twice the damage and attack rolls, which is based off of our wild shape form. And what's incredibly nice about that is we are also going to get another point to our constitution to take that up to 16 or 18. But then also we're never going to miss attacks because we got that double strength modifier added to our attack rolls. It doesn't add it to the damage, but it does to the attack rolls. This means we're going to attack and hit much more frequently, which most of our forms are going to be able to benefit from this. There's just the Myrmidon forms later on that 3 of them have a weapon, well, 1 of them doesn't, which will still benefit from this, the Earth Myrmidon. So very useful all the way through the game, just for the increased hit chance that it brings. Wild Shape at level 5, we get a double attack in our Wild Shape form. And then we get some really nice spells here, which we want to take off Flaming Spear if you're not using it for concentration. Call Lightning is great because this will benefit from our Create Water, and it can deal upwards of 30 damage, doubled in water for 60 damage. And if you run out of spell slots, you can continually just keep casting this as it's a concentration, and you just keep calling Lightning. I also really like Plant Growth. This is a non-concentration crowd control, which is very rare but very effective. So it quarters movement speed for 10 turns. You can set this up inside of Hunger of Hadar with a Warlock, and then the enemy is just trapped in it. So that's what we're going to go with there, level 5. We also get that the extra attack, which is really nice because the ability, every class has that nice spike at level 5 where they get an extra attack or something. So when we're in a beast form, attacks count as magical for overcoming resistance and immunity to non-physical damage, or non-magical damage. So basically what that means is if a creature is resistant to physical damage, we will be doing it as a magical damage instead. The Monk also gets a similar feat, so that's really nice. And then we also get the Panther and the Owlbear, and I think the Owlbear is really great. The Owlbear used to be broken. You could jump from the top and take out pretty much any enemy, so they did nerf it, understandably, but still very powerful. Now, we get another option for our spells here. Sleet Storm can be nice to disrupt concentration. That can be a good one. This does require concentration herself, though. Protection from energy can grant resistance to damage type. This does require concentration, so not super amazing in the game. But we can put back on Flaming Spear. Moonbeam can be okay, too, if you want a radiant damage source, if you don't have, like, a Cleric or Paladin. And then at level 7, we actually get a big power boost here. So we're going to take off these 2 spells. Take Minor Elemental and the Woodland Being. This is a Druid exclusive spell. What's nice about this is the fact that it's a 2-for-1 deal. We get the Woodland Being, and they can summon a Wood Woad. This can also cast our Spike Growth, and then the Wood Woad can also cast Entangle. So we get a lot of crowd control just from these 2 here. And what's nice with the Minor Elemental is you can choose a Ice Mephits, and it gives you 2 of them, and they benefit from Create Water. So if you create water, 2 Ice Mephits, it's pretty deadly. And you can also set up like your crowd control within it. But we're going to be focused more so on like being in our wild shape. So we want as many summons as we can get and other ritual spells. So that's that for level 7. And then into level 8, we get another form. We get the Saber-Tooth Tiger, which can shred armor. Really nice for taking down the armor class of some enemies. And it can regenerate health points, so that's also nice. For our spells, Confusion's a really good concentration. But I also am a big fan of Ice Storm for setting up icy surface and then setting up water. You can trip enemies with this, so it's pretty underrated. Now, for our next feat, there's a couple that we can go with. So, Ability Improvement to take up Wisdom, that just makes sense. Or to take up Constitution to 20. But I think that for this build, Alert is a little bit better. The reason being, when we're in wild shape, we lose all our ability scores anyways, so it takes on whatever enemy or whatever we're wild shaping into. But initiative is set at the beginning of battle, so we can get this nice +5 to initiative and cannot be surprised, which will save your butt a lot of the time because you don't really notice when you get surprised, but the enemy will continually attack you. And then if you take this, he can wild shape and go into his tanky form. This is really great, and not a lot of people talk about this. I usually see, like, I've researched a lot of these builds, and for Circle of the Moon, a lot of people just bump up Wisdom, but I think it's best to go with this to get the increased initiative, so we can, if we're in a pickle, we can go into our wild shape form and survive. So that's what we're going to go with for feat number 2. Alert is really effective, especially on honor mode. If you're getting surprised, that can be a total party kill right there. So next level, we could get level 5 spells. So we're going to be taking Conjure Elemental, because that's just great. We can pop these up and go into wild shape and don't have to think about them. So 3 elementals, big thumbs up for me. Planar Binding can be another good one. What's nice about Planar Binding is you can take over an enemy and then have them on our side, and this does require concentration, but there's a lot of concentration spells here, so that can be a really nice option as well if you don't want to take the others. But at level 10, we get our improved wild shape, so we get 2 additional attacks after making an armed attack in wild shape form, giving us that 3rd attack. And we get the Dilophosaurus, which is a dinosaur summon. I think it's super cool. But also, for this class, we get the Myrmidon shapes, which Earth Myrmidon, Fire Myrmidon, and Water Myrmidon. Now, we don't have proficiency in their weapons. We have proficiency for the Fire Myrmidon because it uses Scimitar, which is what we use as a druid, and Earth Myrmidon is unarmed, so it uses the Tavern Brawler. But Water Myrmidon and Air Myrmidon both use martial weapons, so we can make a little change here. And for a final spell, I think a Planar Binding can be really nice, so we're going to take that. Level 11 is kind of a, I wouldn't say it's a dead level. We do get level 6 spells, but the Druid gets Hero's Feast, gives you a health point increase, makes wisdom saving throws with advantage, can't be poisoned, diseased, or frightened, which is nice. Wall of Thorns is a good crowd control. 60 turn crowd control. Heal gives you 70 healing, and has some unique usages on the Dark Urge. Sunbeam can be decent for damage, but we have better damage options, so I think that it's best to actually add in the Cleric, and what we're going to go with is the War Domain Cleric, because this gives us the War Priest. We can use bonus actions to make an attack. Very nice. And then for our cantrips, we'll go with something like that. Deity, probably Maliki. This is more so for just your role-playing purposes, so pick one that you think works best for your own particular play. Actually, a God of Nature. I can't even think of it right off the top of my head here. Not to drag out the video, but we get some more spells here from the from being a cleric. Command is a really nice spell. Honestly, I think that command's great because you can pretty much shut down the enemy team with this. Bless if you don't have someone that does bless, and Guiding Bolt's nice just for the increase and getting advantage on attack rolls. We already have Create Water, but Sanctuary is also a nice option too, so that's what we're going to go with there. We have our domain spells, and since we have high wisdom, we get more prepared spells than the average bear, so that's nice. At level we can take the second level. You can use your get the Guided Strike plus 10 to attack rolls, but alternatively, we can also add in the Sorcerer, and this just gives us some more utility. So I really like any cold or lightning attacks, and then Bone Chill is nice, Minor Illusion. So those 4 are best cantrips. For the spells that we can take at level 2, Shield is invaluable, so being able to increase your armor class by 5 and then take no damage from Magic Missile is just flawless. False Slave can give you temporary health points, which is nice too, but I like to have Magic Missile just for an additional, like if you have no other ability to attack, sometimes Magic Missile will allow you to like bend things through walls, so that's at least another option for damage. Now, the reason that we want to take this, we would start with 1 level Sorcerer to get Constitution Saving Throw proficiency, which will increase the chance that we'll be holding our concentrations. Now, we got 2 options. If we go Storm Sorcerer, you can cast Fly as a bonus action until the end of turn without receiving opportunity attacks, so that's nice for movement if we're staying out of our form. But the Draconic Bloodline gives you a base armor class of 13 when you're not wearing armor, so if we're going more so the clothing route, that gives us a bit more armor class and a little bit more health. We get 1 more health point, so it's up to you. If you think that adding in Storm Sorcerer for the ability to fly, you would want to be starting as this, I might add. So another thing with the Dragon Ancestry is we can take the Cold Dragon, which will give us Armor of Agathys, which is actually really nice for this build, and I'm going to get into why. And then Halsin just does not look right with dragon scales, so we're going to take those off. But yeah, I'm going to get into why we want to take that, because when we're in our wild shape form, the Armor of Agathys will actually stick onto us, and we can upcast it. So we can do it so we get 30 temporary health points, and then attackers take 30 cold damage. I would recommend using your level 6 spell slot to actually upcast your Conjure Elemental. That's probably the best usage for it. I'm a big fan of the Water Myrmidon because it can heal and also apply wet, and it does ice damage that goes alongside the build pretty well. But even so, if we take our level 5 Armor of Agathys, that's still 25 extra health and 25 cold damage for anyone that attacks us. So that's really nice. I think that is a very effective usage of a spell slot just for when we're in wild shape. And then also we got our minor elementals. The ice methods are very, very useful because they also will deal double damage to water. So you can call them in. There's 2 of them. And then we also have our woodland being, so we can call that in. And then if you go on to herd, you can also call in your fallen lover, which gives you the another summon here. So you can see we got a secondary summon. So the Woodwoad can summon Spike Growth, and they can use Entangle. So That's our gang. We got 5 summons already. That's really nice. And then we also got ourselves our summons. Now for gear, I'll get into gear quickly. We want anything that increases our initiative. There is armor. I accidentally sold it on this playthrough. I'm sorry for that, but it would increase your armor class by 2. You want to have that armor. I just have the ballast armor because this is really nice and gives us +2 to initiative and causes enemies to be vulnerable to piercing damage, so double the piercing damage for other allies. But you want to have the armor of moon basking, which will give you temporary health when going into wild shape, but also give you +2 to armor class in your wild shape. Cloak of displacement just to help you survive when outside of the side of that. You can go with any type of gloves. I just went with the gloves of dexterity there just for the boost to armor class. Disintegrating Nightwalkers to give us a bonus action, Misty Step to move around. Weapon choice is really up to you. Surgeon Subjugation Amulet, critical hit will paralyze the target. You can go with really anything. The Constitution Amulet will give you more health and Constitution saving throw advantage. I like the Crypt Lord Ring for Create Undead because having an extra undead ally on your team is just invaluable since we're kind of following the summon route here. And then Ring of Regeneration just for the increased heal regeneration. So typically the way we want to be playing this, if you're outside of your wild shape form, have a quarterstaff equipped and then also use your Shillelagh. That's going to be kind of the best way to go about doing that. So you can use Shillelagh there and then that'll infuse it with wisdom modifier for damage, so we can just deal a little bit more damage. Now we're going to want to spend most of our time in our wild shape. We got lots of options for wild shape. I'm a big fan of the Owlbear. The Myrmidons are nice, but they use 2 wild shape charges, and not everyone enjoys being the Myrmidons. Early game it's the Dire Raven for the blinding attack. That's really nice. But then outside of that, I think Owlbear or just the straight up bear is kind of the way to go for this. So Halsin and Bear is just the iconic way to be. So yeah, you get to be a big bear. It deals a lot of damage, 86 health plus a 25 temporary plus armor of Agathys. We're a nice polar bear. So yeah, it is quite powerful, this build. What's nice, if you get knocked out of your wild shape, you just hop back into it again and continue to wreck shit up. So this is a pretty powerful build guide for Baldur's Gate 3, having summons, crowd control, and the ability to deal a good amount of damage. And I think that the Moon Druid is the best tank in the game because you get a lot of health, you get the ability to jump back into your shape twice, and then you have your entire health bar when you're back in human form, and you can cast spells like Call Lightning is very powerful, will create water. So yeah, this is a very powerful build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. That's for Halsin, and thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next video.